Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into a somber yet significant part of American history, the assassination of U.S. presidents. Recently, there has been a lot of attention surrounding a reported attack on former President Donald Trump. While thankfully he survived, this incident made me reflect on the tragic fates of past presidents who were not so fortunate. In this video, we'll explore the lives and deaths of the 4 U.S. presidents who were assassinated while in office. We'll start with the first and perhaps most famous assassination, that of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, is one of the most revered figures in American history. He led the nation through the tumultuous years of the Civil War and is best remembered for his efforts to abolish slavery through the Emancipation Proclamation and the passage of the 13th Amendment. However, his presidency was cut tragically short on April 14, 1865. On that fateful evening, Lincoln and his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, attended a play titled Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. During the performance, John Wilkes Booth, a well-known actor and Confederate sympathizer, entered the presidential box and shot Lincoln in the back of the head with a .44 caliber Derringer pistol. Booth then leapt onto the stage, shouting "Sic semper tyrannis," a Latin phrase meaning "thus always to tyrants," before fleeing the theater. The mortally wounded president was carried across the street to the Peterson house, where he lay in a coma for 9 hours before succumbing to his injuries at 7:22 a.m. on April 15, 1865. Lincoln's death sent shockwaves throughout the nation, plunging the country into deep mourning. His assassination marked the first time a sitting U.S. president was murdered and left a profound impact on the nation's history. John Wilkes Booth, the mastermind behind the assassination, was part of a larger conspiracy aimed at reviving the Confederate cause by eliminating the top 3 officials in the U.S. government: President Lincoln, Vice President Andrew Johnson, and Secretary of State William H. Seward. While Booth successfully assassinated Lincoln, his co-conspirators failed in their attempts. Lewis Powell attacked Seward but only managed to wound him, and George Atzerodt lost his nerve and did not carry out his assignment to kill Johnson. Booth fled the scene and was on the run for 12 days. He and his accomplice, David Harold, were eventually tracked to a Virginia farm. Federal troops surrounded the barn where Booth was hiding and set it on fire to force him out. Booth was shot and killed by Sergeant Boston Corbett as the barn burned. His death marked the end of one of the most infamous manhunts in American history. Lincoln's assassination had far-reaching consequences for the nation. It left the country without its leader at a critical juncture during Reconstruction, the period following the Civil War aimed at rebuilding the South and integrating freed slaves into American society. Vice President Andrew Johnson assumed the presidency but struggled to implement Lincoln's vision for reunification and civil rights, leading to political turmoil and further strife in the post-war years. The impact of Lincoln's death extended beyond politics. His assassination was a profound emotional blow to a nation already weary from years of civil war. Memorial services were held across the country, and Lincoln's funeral procession, which traveled by train from Washington, D.C. to his final resting place in Springfield, Illinois, drew millions of mourners. The journey allowed citizens from various states to pay their respects, highlighting the deep national grief. Lincoln's legacy as a champion of liberty and equality endures to this day. He is often cited as one of the greatest presidents in American history, and his assassination remains a pivotal moment that shaped the nation's course. Monuments and memorials dedicated to Lincoln can be found across the country, including the iconic Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., serving as a testament to his enduring impact on the United States. In addition to his political legacy, Lincoln's assassination has been the subject of numerous books, films, and scholarly studies reflecting ongoing interest in his life and the events surrounding his death. His leadership during one of the nation's most challenging periods, combined with his tragic end, has cemented his place in American mythology and collective memory. The site of Lincoln's assassination, Ford's Theater, has been preserved as a historical site and museum. Visitors can explore the theater, view artifacts related to the assassination, and learn more about Lincoln's life and legacy. The Peterson House, where Lincoln died, is also part of the National Park Service's preservation efforts, providing a somber reminder of the nation's loss. As we reflect on the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, it is important to consider the broader context of the times and the enduring significance of his presidency. His efforts to preserve the Union and end slavery set the stage for significant social and political changes in the United States, changes that continue to influence the country today. The lessons from Lincoln's life and death remain relevant, reminding us of the complexities of leadership, the challenges of nation building, and the enduring struggle for justice and equality. Lincoln's presidency was marked by significant events and challenges, including the secession of Southern states, the formation of the Confederate States of America, and the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861. Despite initial setbacks, Lincoln's leadership and determination were crucial in maintaining the Union's resolve. His speeches, such as the Gettysburg Address and his second inaugural address, continue to resonate as powerful expressions of the nation's ideals and aspirations. During the Civil War, Lincoln faced considerable opposition and criticism from various quarters, including within his own party. The war's human and economic toll was immense, and there were moments when the Union's victory seemed uncertain. However, Lincoln's strategic decisions, including the appointment of Ulysses S. Grant as commander of the Union armies, played a key role in turning the tide of the war. Lincoln's commitment to ending slavery was a defining aspect of his presidency. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued on January 1, 1863, declared the freedom of all enslaved people in Confederate-held territory. This bold move not only altered the character of the war, but also laid the groundwork for the eventual abolition of slavery throughout the United States. The passage of the 13th Amendment in December 1865, which occurred posthumously for Lincoln, legally ended slavery and represented a monumental achievement in American history. The post-assassination period was marked by intense political struggle over the direction of Reconstruction. Radical Republicans in Congress sought to impose stringent conditions on the former Confederate states and to ensure civil rights for the newly freed African Americans. President Andrew Johnson's lenient approach to Reconstruction policies led to significant conflicts with Congress, culminating in his impeachment by the House of Representatives in 1868. Although Johnson was acquitted by a single vote in the Senate, his presidency was largely ineffective in achieving meaningful progress in Reconstruction. The assassination of Lincoln also had a significant impact on his family. Mary Todd Lincoln, already a controversial and polarizing figure, struggled with grief and mental health issues following her husband's death. She faced considerable public scrutiny and personal hardship, including the loss of 3 of her 4 sons. Mary spent her later years in relative obscurity and financial difficulty, further highlighting the personal toll of Lincoln's assassination. In the decades following Lincoln's death, his legacy continued to evolve. The 20th and 21st centuries have seen numerous reinterpretations of his life and presidency, reflecting changing societal values and historical perspectives. Lincoln has been celebrated as a symbol of freedom and equality, and his image has been used to advocate for various social and political causes. His enduring popularity is evident in the numerous statues, memorials, and public spaces named in his honor. In conclusion, the assassination of Abraham Lincoln was a defining moment in American history that had profound and lasting consequences. It marked the first time a U.S. president was assassinated, setting a tragic precedent. Lincoln's leadership during the Civil War and his commitment to ending slavery have left an indelible mark on the nation. As we reflect on his life and legacy, we are reminded of the enduring importance of his ideals and the ongoing struggle for justice and equality. James A. Garfield. James Abram Garfield, the 20th President of the United States, served a mere 200 days in office before his life was tragically cut short by an assassin's bullet. Garfield's brief presidency and his untimely death had significant implications for the nation's political landscape and the ongoing struggle for civil service reform. Garfield was elected president in 1880, succeeding Rutherford B. Hayes. Prior to his presidency, he had served as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives for nearly 2 decades, earning a reputation as a skilled orator and a staunch advocate for civil rights and Reconstruction. His presidency, although short, was marked by his commitment to civil service reform and his efforts to strengthen the power of the executive branch. On July 2, 1881, just a few months into his presidency, Garfield was shot by Charles J. Guiteau, a disgruntled and delusional office seeker. The assassination attempt took place at the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station in Washington, D.C. Guiteau, who had repeatedly been denied a federal appointment, believed that killing Garfield would somehow benefit the nation and secure him a government position. Garfield was struck by 2 bullets, one grazing his arm and the other lodging near his spine. He collapsed on the station floor, bleeding profusely. Immediate medical attention was provided, but the medical knowledge and techniques of the time were inadequate for treating such a severe injury. The lack of understanding of antiseptic procedures led to repeated probing of Garfield's wound with unsterilized instruments and hands, causing severe infections. Despite the severity of his injuries, Garfield initially showed signs of recovery. He was moved to the White House, where he received constant medical care and the nation's attention remained fixed on his condition. His doctors attempted various treatments, including feeding him through a rectal tube and using rudimentary air conditioning to keep him comfortable during the hot summer months. The nation anxiously awaited updates on his health, and there was widespread hope that he would survive. However, Garfield's condition worsened over the following weeks and months. The infection in his wound led to blood poisoning and the development of abscesses. He was moved to a seaside retreat in New Jersey in an attempt to improve his health, but his suffering continued. On September 19, 1881, after enduring months of excruciating pain and declining health, Garfield succumbed to his injuries. His death shocked the nation and plunged it into mourning. Garfield's assassination had profound implications for the United States. His death highlighted the urgent need for civil service reform, a cause that Garfield himself had championed. The patronage system, which allowed government jobs to be awarded based on political connections rather than merit, was seen as a contributing factor to the president's death. The public outrage over Garfield's assassination galvanized support for reform. In response to the outcry, Congress passed the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act in 1883. The act established the Civil Service Commission and implemented a merit-based system for hiring and promoting federal employees. This landmark legislation marked the beginning of the end for the patronage system and laid the foundation for the modern professional civil service in the United States. Charles J. Guiteau, the man responsible for Garfield's death, was apprehended at the scene of the crime and later stood trial for murder. His trial was one of the first high-profile insanity defenses in American history. Despite his erratic behavior and delusional justifications for the assassination, Guiteau was found guilty and sentenced to death. He was executed by hanging on June 30th, 1882. Garfield's legacy, though overshadowed by the brevity of his presidency, is marked by his dedication to public service and his tragic martyrdom. His death underscored the dangers of the patronage system and spurred significant reforms that reshaped the American political landscape. Garfield is remembered as a president who sought to bring integrity and efficiency to government, and his assassination served as a catalyst for much-needed change. In the years following his death, Garfield was honored with numerous memorials and tributes. The Garfield Monument in Washington, D.C., located on the grounds of the United States Capitol, commemorates his life and service. His resting place in Lakeview Cemetery in Cleveland, Ohio, features a striking memorial that draws visitors to reflect on his contributions and tragic end. As we consider the assassination of James A. Garfield, it is essential to recognize the broader context of his life and the era in which he lived. Garfield's commitment to civil rights and his efforts to combat corruption were part of a larger struggle to define the nation's values and governance. His untimely death serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the impact of individual leaders on the course of history. Garfield's story also highlights the evolution of medical science and the understanding of infection control. The mishandling of his injuries and the subsequent infections he suffered illustrate the limitations of 19th century medicine. His death prompted reflections on medical practices and contributed to advancements in surgical techniques and antiseptic procedures in the years that followed. In conclusion, the assassination of James A. Garfield was a tragic event that had lasting repercussions for the United States. It underscored the need for civil service reform, led to significant legislative changes, and highlighted the importance of effective and ethical governance. Garfield's brief presidency and his enduring legacy as a reformer and martyr continue to be remembered and honored in American history. William McKinley. William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States, served from 1897 until his assassination in 1901. His presidency marked a significant period of change and expansion for the United States as the country emerged as a global power. McKinley's tenure was characterized by economic prosperity, the Spanish-American War, and the annexation of territories. However, his promising presidency was abruptly ended by an assassin's bullet, leaving a lasting impact on the nation. McKinley was born on January 29, 1843, in Niles, Ohio. He served in the Union Army during the Civil War, rising to the rank of brevet major. After the war, McKinley pursued a career in law and politics, eventually being elected to Congress and serving as the governor of Ohio. His political career was marked by his commitment to economic protectionism, supporting high tariffs to protect American industries. In the presidential election of 1896, McKinley ran as the Republican candidate against Democrat William Jennings Bryan. The campaign was fiercely contested, with McKinley's platform focusing on maintaining the gold standard and promoting industrial growth, while Bryan advocated for the free coinage of silver. McKinley's victory ushered in an era of Republican dominance in American politics. As president, McKinley's administration oversaw significant economic growth and industrial expansion. His support for protective tariffs, most notably the Dingley Tariff of 1897, helped American businesses thrive. McKinley's leadership during the Spanish-American War in 1898 was a defining moment of his presidency. The war resulted in a decisive victory for the United States, leading to the Treaty of Paris and the acquisition of territories such as Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. This marked the emergence of the United States as a global power with overseas colonies. McKinley's second term began with widespread public approval as the nation enjoyed economic prosperity and international prestige. However, his presidency took a tragic turn on September 6, 1901, during a visit to the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. While greeting the public at the Temple of Music, McKinley was shot twice at close range by Leon Zalgas, an anarchist who believed that killing the president would advance his anti-government cause. One bullet grazed McKinley's shoulder, but the other penetrated his abdomen, causing severe internal injuries. Initially, it appeared that McKinley might survive. He was taken to the Exposition's hospital, where doctors performed emergency surgery. However, medical knowledge and practices of the time were limited, and the surgical team failed to locate the bullet. Despite their efforts, McKinley's condition worsened due to gangrene and infection. For over a week, the nation remained on edge, receiving regular updates on the president's condition. McKinley showed brief signs of recovery, but on September 13th, his health took a dramatic downturn. He slipped into a coma and died in the early morning hours of September 14, 1901. His death was a devastating blow to the nation, which had hoped for his recovery. Leon Zalgas was immediately apprehended at the scene of the crime. During his trial, he expressed no remorse for his actions, stating that he believed he had done his duty as an anarchist. The trial was swift, and Zalgas was found guilty of murder. He was executed by electrocution on October 29, 1901. McKinley's assassination had far-reaching consequences for the United States. His death led to an outpouring of national grief and a renewed focus on security measures for public officials. The Secret Service, which had primarily been responsible for investigating financial crimes, was tasked with providing full-time protection for the president, a duty that continues to this day. The impact of McKinley's assassination extended beyond immediate security concerns. His death brought Theodore Roosevelt, his vice president, to the presidency. Roosevelt's dynamic and progressive approach to governance marked a significant shift in American politics. Under Roosevelt's leadership, the nation saw the implementation of progressive reforms, a stronger regulatory state, and an assertive foreign policy. McKinley's legacy is often overshadowed by the accomplishments of his successor, yet his contributions to the nation's economic policies and international stature remain significant. He is remembered for his advocacy of protectionism, his role in the Spanish-American War, and his efforts to promote American industry. The Pan American Exposition, intended to showcase American progress and innovation, became a somber backdrop to McKinley's tragic end. The Temple of Music, where he was shot, was subsequently demolished, but the memory of the event remains a poignant reminder of the vulnerability of public figures and the impact of political violence. McKinley's funeral was a moment of national mourning. His body lay in state in the Capitol Rotunda, where thousands of mourners paid their respects. He was buried in Canton, Ohio, where the McKinley National Memorial was later constructed to honor his life and presidency. The memorial stands as a testament to his contributions and the deep loss felt by the nation. The broader context of McKinley's assassination highlights the tensions and conflicts of the era. The turn of the 20th century was a period of rapid industrialization, social change, and political unrest. Anarchist movements, fueled by dissatisfaction with economic inequality and government policies, saw violent acts as a means to achieve their goals. McKinley was not the only target of such violence, but his assassination underscored the dangers faced by public officials and the need for increased security measures. In examining McKinley's life and presidency, it is essential to consider his vision for the United States and the challenges he faced. His commitment to economic protectionism reflected the interests of American industries and workers, while his foreign policy decisions helped shape the nation's role on the global stage. McKinley's presidency, though cut short, was marked by significant achievements that influenced the direction of the country. As we reflect on the assassination of William McKinley, we are reminded of the fragility of life and the impact of individual leaders on the course of history. McKinley's tragic end serves as a poignant example of the challenges and dangers inherent in public service. His legacy, while often overshadowed, remains an integral part of the American historical narrative. In conclusion, the assassination of William McKinley was a pivotal moment in American history that had lasting repercussions for the nation. It highlighted the need for enhanced security measures, influenced the course of American politics, and underscored the dangers of political violence. McKinley's contributions to economic policy and international relations, coupled with his tragic death, continue to be remembered and honored in the annals of American history. John F. Kennedy. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, is one of the most iconic and charismatic figures in American history. His presidency, though brief, was marked by significant events that shaped the modern world. Kennedy's assassination on November 22, 1963, remains one of the most shocking and widely debated events in American history, with a profound impact on the nation and the world. John F. Kennedy, often referred to as JFK, was born on May 29, 1917, in Brookline, Massachusetts, into the influential Kennedy family. He graduated from Harvard University in 1940 and served in the U.S. Navy during World War II, where he was awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for his heroic actions. After the war, Kennedy pursued a career in politics, serving as a congressman and then a senator from Massachusetts. In 1960, he ran for president against the Republican candidate, Richard Nixon, and won in one of the closest elections in American history. Kennedy's presidency began on January 20, 1961, with a stirring inaugural address that included the famous line, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." His administration, often referred to as Camelot, was characterized by youthful vigor, progressive ideals, and a commitment to public service. During his presidency, Kennedy faced numerous challenges and crises. One of his first major tests was the Bay of Pigs invasion in April 1961, a failed attempt by Cuban exiles to overthrow Fidel Castro's communist regime in Cuba. The operation, planned during the Eisenhower administration, ended in disaster and was a significant embarrassment for Kennedy. However, he took full responsibility for the failure, which helped to bolster his public image as a leader willing to accept accountability. The following year, Kennedy faced an even greater crisis during the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962. The discovery of Soviet ballistic missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from the U.S. coast, brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. Kennedy's administration responded with a naval blockade and intense diplomatic negotiations. After 13 tense days, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev agreed to remove the missiles in exchange for a U.S. pledge not to invade Cuba and the secret removal of American missiles from Turkey. The resolution of the crisis was seen as a major victory for Kennedy and a demonstration of his ability to navigate complex international issues. Kennedy was also deeply committed to civil rights. He proposed comprehensive civil rights legislation aimed at ending racial segregation and discrimination. His administration supported the Freedom Riders, who challenged segregation in the South, and he sent federal troops to protect James Meredith, the first African-American student to enroll at the University of Mississippi. Kennedy's efforts laid the groundwork for the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which was passed after his death under President Lyndon B. Johnson. On the domestic front, Kennedy launched ambitious initiatives to improve the economy, education, and healthcare. His New Frontier program sought to address issues such as poverty, inequality, and technological advancement. He established the Peace Corps, which sent American volunteers abroad to assist with education, health, and development projects in developing countries. Kennedy also set a national goal to land a man on the moon before the end of the decade, leading to the successful Apollo missions and the moon landing in 1969. However, Kennedy's presidency was cut tragically short on November 22, 1963. On that day, Kennedy was visiting Dallas, Texas, as part of a campaign tour to garner support for his re-election bid. Riding in an open-top limousine with his wife, Jacqueline, Texas Governor John Connally, and Connally's wife, Kennedy was greeted by enthusiastic crowds. As the motorcade passed through Dealey Plaza, shots rang out. Kennedy was struck by 2 bullets, one in the upper back, which exited through his throat, and a fatal shot to the head. Governor Connally was also seriously wounded. The motorcade rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital, but despite the efforts of the medical staff, Kennedy was pronounced dead at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. The assassination stunned the nation and the world. News of Kennedy's death spread rapidly, plunging the country into deep mourning. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, who was in the motorcade uninjured, was sworn in as the 36th President of the United States aboard Air Force One just hours after the assassination, with Jacqueline Kennedy by his side, still wearing her blood-stained pink suit. The immediate aftermath of the assassination was chaotic. Within hours, the Dallas police arrested Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine and Marxist who had recently returned from the Soviet Union. Oswald was charged with the murder of President Kennedy, but he never stood trial. 2 days after his arrest, while being transferred from the city jail to the county jail, Oswald was shot and killed by nightclub owner Jack Ruby in front of live television cameras. Oswald's murder further fueled conspiracy theories and speculation about the assassination. To address these concerns, President Johnson established the Warren Commission, led by Chief Justice Earl Warren, to investigate the events surrounding Kennedy's death. The commission concluded that Oswald acted alone in assassinating the president and that there was no evidence of a conspiracy. Despite the commission's findings, many Americans remained skeptical, and numerous alternative theories have persisted over the decades, suggesting involvement by various groups, including the CIA, the Mafia, and anti-Castro Cuban exiles. Kennedy's assassination had a profound impact on the nation. It marked the end of an era of optimism and idealism, plunging the country into a period of uncertainty and grief. The 1960s, already a decade of significant social and political upheaval, became even more turbulent with the loss of such a charismatic and inspirational leader. The legacy of John F. Kennedy endures in various forms. His speeches and public addresses continue to be celebrated for their eloquence and vision. The Kennedy family, often referred to as America's royal family, remains influential in American politics and public life. The John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum in Boston, Massachusetts, preserves his legacy and serves as a center for the study of his life and times. As we reflect on the tragic history of presidential assassinations in the United States, from Abraham Lincoln to John F. Kennedy, we are reminded of the fragility of life and the profound impact such events have on the nation. Today, we find ourselves once again confronted with the specter of violence against a former president. Recently, former President Donald Trump survived an attack that has sent shockwaves through the country. This incident, while thankfully not resulting in his death, serves as a stark reminder of the ever-present dangers faced by public figures and the enduring legacy of those who were not as fortunate. Abraham Lincoln's assassination in 1865 was a turning point in American history. Lincoln's leadership during the Civil War and his efforts to abolish slavery had set the nation on a path toward reunification and justice. His death at the hands of John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer, was not just a personal tragedy but a national catastrophe. Lincoln's assassination left the country without its guiding force during a critical period of Reconstruction. The immediate aftermath saw an intensified struggle over how to reintegrate the southern states and ensure rights for newly freed African Americans. Lincoln's vision for a just and unified nation would eventually be realized, but his assassination underscored the volatile and dangerous environment in which political leaders operated. James A. Garfield's assassination in 1881 further highlighted the perils faced by public officials. Garfield, who had advocated for civil service reform, was shot by Charles J. Gutierrez, a disgruntled office seeker. The attack on Garfield was a stark illustration of the dangers posed by the patronage system, where government jobs were awarded based on political connections rather than merit. Garfield's prolonged suffering and eventual death from infection underscored the need for improved medical practices and greater security for the president. His assassination galvanized support for the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act of 1883, which established a merit-based system for federal employment, marking a significant step toward reducing corruption and improving government efficiency. William McKinley's assassination in 1901 brought the nation face-to-face with the challenges of a new century. McKinley, who had led the country to victory in the Spanish-American War and presided over a period of economic prosperity, was shot by anarchist Leon Zalgas. McKinley's death underscored the rise of political extremism and the threats posed by radical ideologies. The assassination led to increased security measures and a reevaluation of how public events were managed. It also brought Theodore Roosevelt to the presidency, ushering in an era of progressive reforms that would shape American society for decades to come. John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963 was a defining moment for a generation. Kennedy's presidency had been marked by bold initiatives in civil rights, space exploration, and foreign policy. His vision of a new frontier inspired many, and his handling of the Cuban Missile Crisis demonstrated his capacity for calm and decisive leadership. Kennedy's assassination in Dallas, Texas, sent shockwaves around the world and plunged the nation into deep mourning. The subsequent Warren Commission investigation concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, but lingering doubts and conspiracy theories have kept the debate alive for decades. Kennedy's death marked the end of an era of innocence and the beginning of a period of profound social and political upheaval. The recent attack on former President Donald Trump, while thankfully not fatal, brings these historical events into sharp relief. Trump's survival is a relief, but it also serves as a reminder that the threats to our leaders are as real today as they were in the past. The motivations behind the attack, whether political, ideological, or personal, reflect the deep divisions and tensions that continue to exist in modern society. This incident underscores the need for vigilance and robust security measures to protect those who serve in public office. The attack on Trump, much like the assassinations of Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, and Kennedy, highlights the vulnerabilities inherent in the highest levels of government service. It also prompts a reflection on the broader societal and political contexts that contribute to such acts of violence. In each historical case, the assassinations were not merely isolated incidents but were reflective of broader currents of unrest, dissatisfaction, and ideological conflict. In the wake of the attack on Trump, it is imperative to consider the lessons of history. The measures taken to protect the president and other high-ranking officials have evolved significantly since the 19th century, yet the fundamental challenges remain. The Secret Service, established to protect the president after the assassination of McKinley, has continually adapted to new threats, employing advanced technology and intelligence to ensure the safety of those in power. However, the recent attack serves as a reminder that no system is infallible and that the protection of public figures is an ongoing challenge. The societal impact of such attacks extends beyond immediate security concerns. Each assassination and attempt has left a lasting mark on the national consciousness, influencing public perceptions of leadership, governance, and political stability. The deaths of Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, and Kennedy each precipitated significant political and social changes, prompting legislative reforms, shifts in public policy, and changes in national priorities. As we reflect on these events, it is important to honor the legacies of those who were lost and to consider the broader implications for our society. The sacrifices made by these leaders and the profound impact of their deaths on the course of American history remind us of the importance of resilience, unity, and the ongoing pursuit of justice and equality. The attack on Trump, while a contemporary event, connects to this historical continuum. It highlights the enduring relevance of the challenges faced by those in public office and the constant need for vigilance and protection. It also serves as a reminder of the broader societal issues that can give rise to such violence, including political polarization, social inequality, and ideological extremism. In conclusion, the history of presidential assassinations and attempts in the United States is a somber and poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the impact of individual leaders on the course of history. The recent attack on Donald Trump, while thankfully not fatal, serves as a contemporary reflection of these enduring challenges. As we honor the memories of Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, and Kennedy, let us also commit to ensuring the safety and security of our leaders and to addressing the broader societal issues that contribute to such acts of violence. By learning from the past and working towards a more just and equitable future, we can honor their legacies and continue the work they began.